Ancient humans did not cheat. Not once. Not ever. Not anywhere. There is no record of it. No punishment, no shame, and no word for it. This has nothing to do with loyalty. Then, roughly 11,000 years ago, that changed. Not because people changed, because something around them did. And right now, you are carrying the result. You call it a feeling. The drop in your stomach when someone answers too slowly. The pull to check a screen that isn't yours. It feels ancient. Instinctive. Like it was always there. Most of it is younger than bread. To see why, you have to go back. Before villages. Before fields. Before anyone owned anything. 200,000 years ago. East Africa. A group of about 30 people. That's the whole world. They own exactly what they can carry. Nothing is stored. Nothing is inherited. In that world, betrayal is not a crime. It isn't anything at all. There's nothing to steal. So what were humans actually built for? The strangest evidence we have is your own body. Anatomy records mating history. And it doesn't lie. Start with a gorilla. One male controls a group of females. He wins by being enormous. After that fight, there is no more competition. So his testes are tiny. Around 30 grams. In a body of 200 kilograms. Now take a chimpanzee. A female may mate with many males in one day. The competition doesn't happen before sex. It happens after. Inside the female. So the chimpanzee evolved enormous testes. Around 120 grams. In a body smaller than yours. Now take a human. Human testes weigh around 40 grams. Bigger than a gorilla's. A third of a chimpanzee's. Right in the middle. That is not an accident. The same pattern shows up in body size. Human males are about 15% larger than females. Not double, like a gorilla, and not equal either. Compare that with a gibbon. Gibbons pair up and stay paired for life. Male and female are almost exactly the same size. Humans are not gibbons. And humans are not gorillas. We are a compromise. Our bodies are the record of a species that formed pairs. Pairs that were real, and pairs that broke. Some competition. Not total war. Not total peace. And then there's the strangest human trait of all. In most mammals, fertility is advertised. Swelling, scent, color. Everyone in the group knows. In humans, ovulation is hidden. Even from the woman herself, which means nobody knows who the father is. Including the father. That should be a disaster. It wasn't. To understand why, look at what a human baby is. A foal stands up within an hour of being born. A human infant cannot lift its own head. It cannot walk for a year. It cannot feed itself for years. No animal on Earth arrives this unfinished. There's a reason, and it's a design conflict. Walking upright narrowed the human pelvis. Growing intelligence widened the human skull. Two demands pulling in opposite directions. Evolution's solution was brutal and simple. Give birth early. Finish the brain outside the body. Every human is born roughly a year too soon. And that unfinished brain is expensive. In a small child, the brain burns a huge share of all incoming in every day, for years. Someone has to pay that bill. Every day, for years. And in that world, food is never guaranteed. A hunt fails. A season turns. A mother gets sick. One person cannot carry a child alone through that. So a second adult who stays becomes valuable, not romantic. Logistical. The pair bond is a supply line. That's what those 40 grams are telling us. Humans pair. Not perfectly. Not permanently. But they pair. Now here's the part that gets left out. It was never just two people. Across hunter-gatherer societies, children are raised by the group. Grandmothers. Aunts. Older siblings. Unrelated adults. Anthropologists have a word for this. Alloparenting. A child had many providers, not one. In some Amazonian societies, a child could have several recognized fathers. Every man who was involved shared responsibility. That wasn't confusion. It was insurance. More fathers meant a better chance the child survived. So think about what betrayal would even mean here. There is no property to misdirect. There is no inheritance to protect. There is no name to carry forward. Everyone eats from the same kill. A child born into the group belongs to the group. Certainty about fatherhood buys you nothing. So nobody paid for it. Then the ground changed. Literally, around 11,000 years ago, humans began to farm. And farming does something no one asked for. It ties you to one spot. You cannot walk away from a field. You plant. You wait. You guard. You harvest. And for the first time in human history, there is surplus. More grain than a group can eat. So it gets stored. Pits, granaries, sealed clay jars. And the moment something can be stored, it can be owned. This is the hinge the whole story turns on. A hunter-gatherer's wealth is skill. It dies with them. A farmer's wealth is land, grain, and animals. That does not die. It sits there, which raises a question nobody had needed to ask. When this man dies, who gets the field? And now, suddenly, fatherhood matters. Not emotionally. Financially, a field passed to the wrong son is a fortune leaving the family. So certainty about paternity becomes economically necessary. And there is exactly one problem. Ovulation is hidden. Fatherhood cannot be seen. You cannot test for it. You cannot observe it. So societies did the only thing available. They started controlling behavior instead. Marriage stops being an arrangement and becomes a contract. Property moves with it. Dowries, bride price, witnesses. A woman's sexual history becomes a matter of public record. Virginity becomes a form of verification. Seclusion, chaperones, veiling, walls, and then it gets written down. Around 1750 B.C., Babylon, the Code of Hammurabi, one of the oldest legal texts we have. It contains laws on adultery, with execution as the penalty. Not a taboo, not a sin, a statute, and the penalties are not symmetrical. A wife's infidelity threatened the inheritance line. A husband's usually did not. So the law weighted them differently. This is the crucial point, and it is not about morality. The rules track property. Wherever inheritance flowed, control followed. Even the word carries it. Adultery comes from Latin. Ad alter, toward another, to adulterate, to contaminate something pure. What is being contaminated is a bloodline. That's the invention. Betrayal is not a feeling that was always there. It's a legal category built to protect a harvest. And once it existed, it never left. 11,000 years later, the fields are gone. Most people reading this will inherit no land at all. But the machinery is still installed. Start with jealousy. It is old, and it is not human only. Pair bonding animals guard their partners too. Jealousy is an alarm system. It watches for a supply line being cut. In a group of 30 people, that alarm was useful. You knew everyone. Threats were visible and few. Now run that alarm in a city of 10 million. Every notification is a possible signal. Every photograph is a possible rival. The system was never built for this volume of information, so it fires constantly, and mostly at nothing. Then there's the other half. Falling in love. That overwhelming state has a chemistry and a clock. Researchers who study it find it typically fades within a few years. Not because something went wrong. Compare that with how long a child needs intensive care. The numbers are uncomfortably close. Intense attraction lasts roughly as long as it was needed. Then it changes into something quieter. Attachment, calmer, deeper, far less dramatic. And an enormous number of people read that shift as failure. They think the love died. What actually happened is the system moved to its second stage. So here is what you're running. A body built for pairs that sometimes broke. Raised by a group that no longer exists. With hidden fertility that made fatherhood unknowable. Wrapped in laws written to protect grain. Judged by a culture that calls all of it love. For systems, from 4 different eras, all running at once. None of them were designed together. And none of them were designed for you. None of this makes betrayal harmless. The pain is real. It is not an illusion. Broken trust does real damage to real people. But it explains why it hurts the specific way it does. Why it feels like theft. Because the category was built around theft. Somebody 11,000 years ago looked at a field and needed to know whose son would stand in it. That question outlived them. It outlived the field. It outlived the language they asked it in. And it is still being asked, in your chest, tonight. You didn't choose it. Nobody handed it to you. You inherited it. The way you inherited your spine and your teeth. Old equipment, still switched on, in a world it was never meant for. So the next time that feeling arrives without warning, remember what it actually is, not your nature. Just a very old contract, still running.